Good morning, Year 9. Mr. O'Shea here. And today we're going to continue with our history topic that we have been building up to really since the start of the year. So today, what we're going to be looking at is the key question. Why was there another world war? And that's really building on what we looked at towards the end of last half term with the Treaty of Versailles, end of World War I, life in the 1920s, and then the rise of Hitler and the life in Nazi Germany. So you're going to have two key words for today: appeasement and rearmament. So your first task, if you want to pause the video, please put the key question as your title and have a go at defining the two key words, and then we'll have a look at the answer together. So pause the video and do that. Okay, so here are the two key words, the definitions. Appeasement, it's making political and material concessions to an aggressive power in order to avoid conflict. So in this case, appeasement during this period was when countries such as Britain, France, the United States, they made concessions. They allowed Germany, Italy, Japan to have aggressive actions without any punishment. Okay. And secondly, rearmament. So the process of equipping military forces with a new supply of weapons, building up your army again. So this is something that we were seeing lots of countries doing. If you remember World War I, armaments and big armies was one of the causes there. Versailles took away the size of the German army, but they were going to rearm. So two key words for you. So as a starter activity, just to refresh what you did last half term, you've got 5 minutes, and I want you to write down as many facts as you can remember about Adolf Hitler and life in Nazi Germany. So I want you to pause this, and 5 minutes, I want you to write down as much as possible that you can remember about Adolf Hitler and what it was like to live in Nazi Germany. So pause the video and please do this. Oh, ignore that. So, events leading to World War II. What we're going to do, we're going to go through a couple of them here. Some of it will be a bit of a review of what we looked at with Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, and then I'm going to ask you to go to the book and answer some questions there. So, events leading to the Second World War. First one most people look to as the main cause of World War World War II is World War I. Okay, as we know, World War I, very bloody conflict, lots of destruction, and in the end, we have the Treaty of Versailles. That was signed, it should say 1918. So Treaty of Versailles signed 1918, and as you remember, the treaty was extremely harsh to Germany. They had to take all of the blame for the war. They had to totally disarm. They had to have no air force. They had to pay reparations for the whole war. And they had to give away their colonies to France and England. And they lost land. They had to have German-speaking, German people who were now living in countries such as Poland. So this was a major annoyance for the German people. So I want you to have a go at this question below. Remember, from what I've just mentioned and from your own knowledge, why do you think the terms of the treaty? Do you think the terms of the Treaty of Versailles were fair, and how do you think German people felt about it? So please pause the video and have a go at this question. Okay, so you probably answered that. German people hated the Treaty of Versailles, and whether it was fair or not, it's something we have discussed in detail, and that is really your own personal opinion. So, what impact did this have? 1920s, Germany, it was in a bad place. They were paying reparations because of Versailles, and that caused financial problems. At one point, a loaf of bread in Germany cost so much money, you had to take the money in a suitcase. We had something called hyperinflation. So in Germany, it went to the point where, I'll move out the way, money became worthless. There was no value to money. And in the pictures here from the 1920s, you can see children would use piles of money as a toy or to create a kite. It was cheaper to burn money than it was to buy wood for your fire. And here you can see a man just putting millions of, at that time, German Rentenmark up in his house. So money had lost value. People in Germany were starving. The economy was in a bad place. So can you remember, what did the German people turn to, or who did the German people turn to? Yeah, of course, you can remember. They turned to this man, Adolf Hitler. So we did look at him in detail, and this will be just a quick recap. So in the 1920s, he joined the National Socialist Party, okay? And quickly after joining, he was there to take power. And the main part, you need to know the 4 points. His 4 beliefs that he based it on were Germany needed more land. So you can guess in the future, they're going to have to get that land through conflict. No one's going to give land to them. All people who spoke German should live in one country and be ruled by one strong leader. There were many German people living in countries outside of Germany under different leaders. And again, this is aggressive. It tells us from the start he had conflict. There was going to be some kind of issue with this. He believed the terms of Versailles were unfair and should be broken. Again, terms of Versailles. If he's going to break them, if he feels they're unfair, that will lead to conflict. And he believed that certain groups were better than others. Disabled people, gypsies, people of the Jewish faith, they were going to be persecuted and eventually murdered under his regime. So these are 4 main beliefs of Adolf Hitler. And they started to become very popular due to the economy in Germany. And in 1933, with all this chaos going on, Hitler and the Nazi Party won the general election. He began to rearm Germany, and over the years, he began to implement their ideas, including the persecution of groups such as the Jews and invading land they'd had to give up in Versailles. So, again, this is a recap. We have gone over this, but question at the bottom. Was Hitler the only dictator in control of major power at this time, and which other countries had dictators? So take your time, please pause the video and answer this question. Okay, so as you should know, he wasn't the only dictator at this time. We had dictators in Italy, so Mussolini, we had General Tojo in Japan, and we had Franco in Spain. So we had several dictators in control of large powers, and all of this was causing more tension, more conflict, especially in Europe and in Asia. So what we see, the other countries in Europe, they became worried about what was happening in Germany, especially France. France was looking at Hitler and thinking, we've had war not long ago. France, even till today, parts of it you can't access due to World War I. And they were thinking, what's the best way to avoid a problem? What's the best way to deal with it? They didn't want another war, so they decided to use appeasement. They thought that if they let Germany have a little of what they want, if they were to give them some territory, allow them to rebuild their army a bit, improve the economy, they were happy. Also, they were happy to see Germany as a barrier against communism. Again, something we looked at last term. So Hitler, he wasn't really under so much pressure from Britain and France, and he began to see them as weak. What we see, 1938, the British Prime Minister visits Hitler, and Hitler promises not to invade any other countries. And he promises that he has all he wants and that there's going to be no problem. In a famous image, the Prime Minister went back to Britain and gave a speech saying that he had secured peace for our time. Of course, that peace was going to last less than a year. And he looked very silly, and he's seen as an idiot. He's seen not as the greatest prime minister in British history, and it was really marked by appeasement. But here's a question. Do you think the countries were right to try to avoid war, or should they have started the war earlier in order to stop Hitler from doing more bad things? Okay, so please pause your video and answer the question. Okay, so we're going to move to the final points. So what happened? Again, we're going to be looking at this in more detail with the book and with some reading that you're going to do. But after the promise of no more invasions, on 1st of September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. UK had a deal with Poland and other countries to protect them. Britain and France, they gave Germany a deadline. They said, leave Poland or we will declare war. Hitler, he didn't believe them. After all, they had appeased him. They hadn't started a war with him yet. So he didn't believe them, and he was shocked when on 3rd of September, Britain declared war on Germany, France declared war on Germany, and World War II had begun. Take a look at the map, United Kingdom, Germany, Poland. It should be noted that this invasion of Poland wasn't just by Germany, it was a double invasion. At the same time that Germany invaded from the west, Russia invaded from the east, and both countries, Nazi Germany and Communist Russia, worked together to divide Poland and split it in half to take control. So, a quick little task here. I've put some events for a mini timeline. I want you to take a look at this timeline, and I want you to put these events in order chronologically. So pause the video and take a look. I want you to put these 7 events into chronological order. So if you've done that, let's have a look. This is the order you should have them in. So if you don't have the correct order, please go back and do that now. And finally, now, that's just a brief overview. Really, it was a recap. A lot of that information we've studied already, so it shouldn't be so much new information for you. And now we're going to look in more detail. So you're going to do some reading, you're going to do some writing. You're going to go to the pages that I've attached on Google Classroom. You're going to read through the information and answer the questions on page 81. If I just check, there are 6 questions. Nothing really too big to write about here, but it's going to be looking at Hitler's objectives, what he wanted, and we're going to more about why war broke out in 1939. So, year 9, thank you, and I look forward to receiving your work.